At the ages of 27 and 33, we were relatively young when we tied ourselves in marriage, and our marriage lasted only 2 years. In retrospect, it was a hidden blessing that our union did not last. I couldn't help but reflect on how she had been growing distant from me in the recent months. Her behavior had noticeably shifted, with increased time spent on her phone and even the addition of a passcode, which was a change from before. This seemed unusual to me because we were both absorbed in our work and I couldn't understand who she might be trying to keep at a distance. She had always been incredibly frank with me, but lately she didn't seem to want to share the details of her day. The day our marriage came to an end, we made a small date at a cabin almost an hour away from our home. Once we arrived and got settled in, I immediately plugged in my phone as my battery had died. After a while, she asked me to find a recipe because she wanted to make lunch for us, but since my phone was on the charger, I asked to use her phone to find a prescription. She unlocked it and handed it to me while she cooked. As I started searching, I saw a WhatsApp notification that took me by surprise. I didn't even know she had that app installed. As I was on the verge of returning her phone, potentially closing the door to the truth forever, I decided to click on it, revealing a series of messages my wife was exchanging with another person. At first glance, the first 2 messages seemed harmless, just checking on his well-being and expressing how much she longed for his presence. But the tone of the conversation took an unexpected and disturbing turn. The next message sent a shock through me. It read, "I can't get enough of how great you make me feel." At that moment, it seemed as if all the colors had disappeared from my face and my vision blurred with disbelief. I quickly picked up my phone and quietly walked out of the room, clutching her phone tightly, trying desperately to hide the emotions that were overwhelming me. Pulling myself together, I mentally prepared to dig deeper into the messages, though their scope was much deeper than I had originally intended to explore. After taking snapshots of their conversations, including the heartbreaking, "I love you" messages and their planned date, I left the cabin without saying a word to my wife. I made sure to increase the screen time out of her phone so I don't get locked out. As I drove, my mind was consumed with thoughts of my foggy future and the lingering fear of being betrayed again by someone I cared deeply about. In the midst of these tumultuous reflections, I decided to quickly use her phone to prepare a message to her lover by arranging to meet at a restaurant at a designated time and place. He agreed to meet her at the agreed place. My mind whirled with thoughts of what this man might try to do, or how he might try to get back at me, but in the end, none of that mattered. All I longed for was an explanation. I arrived at the designated location and waited for him. As soon as he crossed the threshold of the restaurant, I immediately recognized him from the pictures and videos I was able to find. I took a deep breath, walked to him, and gently placed an arm around his shoulders. Startled, he pulled away quickly. Before he could utter a word, I revealed my true identity and told him that he had stolen my wife. I offered to discuss the matter. Leading him to a nearby table, I discreetly turned on the recording function on my phone, where all the evidence concerning my wife's phone was stored. Then I asked him to confess everything. At first, he looked extremely unsure, but I reassured him by telling him that it was the bare minimum he could do. Gradually, he began to tell the truth and told me that he had been involved with my wife for about 10 months. Their connection quickly blossomed after meeting through coworkers, and he admitted that she was his mistress. He sincerely confessed that he was deeply in love with her. Realizing that I no longer needed her, I told him that he could have her for himself. Grateful that he had relieved me of the heavy burden of 18 years of alimony, I thanked him, reported her whereabouts, and asked him to take her away. It was with a heavy heart that I decided to return home, though it had long since been ruined. Nevertheless, discovering the true picture of events was a valuable discovery for me. As I sat there thinking, my phone suddenly rang. The ringing of the phone startled me, for it was a landline from the cabin where my wife and I were staying. She asked if I was all right and why I had left so suddenly. In her explanation, she said she couldn't find her phone and didn't know there was a landline. I couldn't help myself and called her a liar and a walker, accusing her of having an affair. I firmly stated that she should not have let me see her phone if she had secrets she wanted to hide. My words took her by surprise and she stuttered, trying to think up excuses for herself. Sensing her confusion, I assured her that no explanation was necessary since I had already met her lover and collected all the necessary evidence. Her surprise increased and she began to scream, desperately trying to find out what I knew. I informed her that the man she was secretly seeing was on his way to pick her up and asked her to pack her things. Despite her attempts to intervene, I abruptly ended the conversation. As soon as I got home, I quickly packed the things I needed to survive for a few weeks, not knowing how long she would be in the house before leaving. I found solace in the fact that before we married, we signed a prenuptial agreement protecting me from losing the house or alimony as a last resort. Seeking solace, I reached out to my best friend, asking if I could lean on him for support and temporary housing. To my surprise, he not only found a place for me, but also arranged to meet with his cousin, an experienced divorce attorney. While I waited for my friend to arrive to pick me up, my wife unexpectedly returned home in the company of her lover. Despite the situation, she directed her anger at me, which seemed absurd given the situation. She questioned me over and over again, not understanding the seriousness of the situation. It was obvious that she was in complete shock. In response, I played the recording of her lover talking in detail about the beginnings of their relationship and their intimate encounters. She was so stunned that she began to sob, vehemently denying the extent of their involvement and insisting that he had exaggerated their connection. She tearfully asserted that she had never intended to leave me or continue seeing him. She did not know that he was standing in the doorway and overheard her words. Clearly offended, he left quickly. I silently applauded his decision as he left, while my wife screamed in annoyance. I firmly told her to pack her things and leave the house, since it rightfully belonged to me. In addition, I informed her that I would send the divorce papers to her parents' place of residence. She sat on the step outside, tears streaming down her face as I left my house. I later found out that my ex-wife was still living with her parents, since her boyfriend had abruptly ended their relationship after only 2 months. Unfortunately, her parents could not help her and forced her to move into a cramped apartment with her younger sister. Meanwhile, I found the love of my life. And now, we are looking forward to the arrival of our child. I am now confident that my new spouse is faithful and affectionate. I am thankful that I had the courage to leave my ex-wife and not try to reconcile, as it ultimately led me to find great happiness. I am deeply happy that I did not have to raise a child from adultery or bear the financial burden of years of alimony. It was good fortune that I learned the truth in time and had the strength to take the necessary action. My ex-wife had an affair with a colleague at work, disregarding the sanctity of our marriage. But it is worth noting that in the end, even the man with whom she was cheating decided to leave her. My story shows the whole point of the law of the boomerang and karma. As I learned from a close friend who saw my ex-spouse after she moved in with her younger sister, her life was turned upside down. Upon hearing this news, I was shocked, but that was no longer my problem. What would you have done in my place? Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'll see you again. Take care.